We're going to be hanging out just a little bit here. I want to talk to you guys about my parents' journey in their retirement. Give me a minute. So my parents retired to Florida and then moved to Oklahoma. Yep, that's right. They retired to the Sunshine State and eventually said, no thank you, we are moving to Oklahoma. Why? Why would they do this? I got it all for you coming right up. Hey everybody, Stacey Hester here, your favorite realtor in all of southern Oklahoma, and I am heading up to the city. I got my GoPro set up. I'm super sweet about this little setup I've got going on, so I hope everything's working all right and the view is okay. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you on my ride up to tell you a little bit about my parents' journey, why they retired to Florida, which was a really great experience for them, but then why they later moved to Oklahoma. Dad was in his mid-70s when he decided it was time. Him and Mom had a big discussion about moving to Oklahoma and why they felt that Florida was no longer the state for them and they wanted to move to Oklahoma. They originally retired from Alaska to Florida. They bought a really inexpensive house, which allowed them to kind of retire a little bit early. Buying that inexpensive house, they then later built their dream house and they spent 15 years in Florida. They really had a great time in the beginning. Florida is probably the best state to be if you're a scuba diver, which they were. They dove in the springs, they did beach dives, they found shark's teeth off of Venice Beach. They had all kinds of good times. And then on top of being able to dive in the state of Florida, they also used Florida as a launching off point for the Caribbean islands and Mexico, because you can basically get hopper flights for pretty cheap. So it was a really great gig for them for quite a while. But as Dad was getting older, life was changing, and Florida was changing. One of the things that I never thought really would have been an issue, but in Florida, it's a huge issue, is the Northerners. Oh my God. So full disclosure, I actually divorced out of Alaska and moved to Florida. I moved back home to Mama and Papa, and I ended up spending 4 years in Florida myself. But Florida has a ton of snowbirds, and I mean a ton. People from New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, you name it, any of those northern states up there, in the wintertime, they migrate south to Florida. They've built a lot of RV parks to accommodate these people, and unfortunately, a lot of these people that snowbird aren't property taxpayers because they don't actually own property in Florida. They're just down there wintering. Florida is not really built for that massive influx of people. You end up with really long wait times to get in to see doctors, really long wait times to just get into a restaurant. I mean, and the traffic gets just kind of stupid. Like I said, it doesn't sound like that much, but it's big and annoying. A strange thing that happened, it wasn't an issue when they first got there, but definitely saw an uptick or a change in the latter half of their time there. But a lot of doctors were no longer taking Medicare, so it really became harder and harder for my parents to find doctors that would help them. And if you did find a doctor that took Medicare, then you were in for a huge wait time. So it just, the healthcare kind of started to take a dive and not be, again, what it once was. They ended up having to kind of change providers a few times for their healthcare services. So that was really a pain in the butt. My dad ended up having health issues, and eventually he was no longer able to dive. So they kind of became homebound, and I'm going to call it out, man, for what it is, but I don't know if it was because of the influx of all of the Northerners, but my parents really had a hard time just finding a good circle of friends after they quit diving. Once they were no longer doing that, their circle of friends diminished vastly. So even though my parents had been there for 15 years, by the time they left, they really weren't leaving anybody behind there. Just kind of sad to me. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So that was one thing. Dad by the time he reached his mid-70s, had finally just had enough. Florida was just no longer a place that brought them the amount of joy and brought them the life that they really wanted to have while living there. Dad really had a hard time traveling by plane. They did get, just before they left, they did get an RV, so they were able to tour a little bit. But a weird fact about Florida, traveling by RV or traveling by car out of that state really can take a day or more to get out of the state.
Forever.
So it's not exactly an ideal location for car travel. Why did they decide to move to Oklahoma? Well, Oklahoma, too, similar to Florida, has very low taxes, but what is a dramatic change is how different the cost of living is between Florida and Oklahoma. They were able to sell their house in Florida with enough profit to be able to build another custom-built home in Oklahoma, basically out of pocket. That was really just a huge win for them to be able to have that kind of freedom from the house payment that they had. Not that it was bad or anything, but just being able to go ahead and just let go of it all. I mean, that's definitely a lifestyle change, right? The other thing about moving to Oklahoma, they had bought an RV just before they left Florida and were attempting travel there. But once they moved to Oklahoma, they now were basically sitting in the middle of the United States of America. Being on the I-35 corridor, I mean, you're connected to the rest of the United States. So they were able to pick up RVing for a little while and really be able to travel around to some states again and do some exploring again, which makes my mom and dad both happy, right? They obviously had to get reestablished with doctors, but they had not had one problem trying to find people here that do take Medicare. Specialty doctors included. We found several different types of specialty doctors that were located right here in Ardmore. So that was a huge help, just having that again. And then, strangely, people don't necessarily snowbird to Oklahoma, so we don't have that strange influx of people each winter, of non-resident people moving down here to spend the winter months. Oklahoma does have 4 seasons. She hasn't minded the change of weather, and personally I don't either. I really love all of the sunshine that Oklahoma has to offer, and it just makes dealing with some cooler weather okay. So I don't mind that at all. The real reason my parents moved from Florida to Oklahoma was because I moved out, and my brothers, one lived in Arizona and the other one still lives in Alaska, so they really had no support system there anymore. And my dad insisted. Carl and I had already been in Oklahoma 5 different times, and my dad just insisted that this was going to be where we were going to settle. He just knew it. And dang it all, if dad wasn't right. Moved them close to Carl and I, and there's just been no regrets since. Dad finally passed away in 2020, so it has just been my mom and Carl and and I can't tell you what a relief it's been to me for my dad to have that foresight to move them to Oklahoma so mom wouldn't have to deal with this as she was even older. It just made that transition so much easier, and I didn't have to worry about my mom because she's here and I can take her to her doctor's appointments. Mom started traveling again, so she will fly over to Arizona. She'll fly up to Alaska. I don't think that she would do that if it wasn't for me and my help getting her packed and getting her in the car and getting her to the airport and just assuring her that everything's fine. But it's really brought a lot of joy to my heart to be able to have this time with my mom and have that time with my mom and dad before dad passed away. So I feel very lucky in that respect. And I know mom does too. She's incredibly active because I drag her to the gym and she comes real estating with me. She's basically my driver. She teases and calls herself my Uber all the time, but I can't say how much I appreciate having her around the way that I do, and just having that bond with her and being able to share our lives with her and include her in our activities that we do. That's probably the biggest takeaway I have in why my parents moved from Florida to Oklahoma, and how much really having that family unit and having that support system really meant to my aging parents, and being there with my dad till the end. So getting a little emotional, but anyway, that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it helps you understand, maybe if your parents are going through something like this, just to help them and be there for them. They're only here for a limited amount of time, and I have so much gratitude for this bonus time that I got with them at the end, and just thank my dad every day that he made that decision to move them out of Florida and be in Oklahoma. So I truly do specialize in helping my out-of-state buyers move to the state of Oklahoma. I'm here for you. I want to be your boots on the ground. I'll do video tours. I help you with this, and I've also truly helped a lot of people my age move their parents here too. I'm familiar with the process. I'm definitely familiar with the struggle because it's not that easy. If you have any questions and just want to pick my brain and just want to know what it was like, I am more than happy to share that experience with you. Just give me a call. All my information's in the details below. Till the next time, you guys. Bye.